You are very familiar with Detroit and with Michigan. Can you talk about, number one, kind of a little bit about your history and your specific experience that's now being applied today in terms of what you did previously when you were assigned here, and when that was?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a bit of an anomaly because I came back to Detroit as a special agent in charge in an office I really grew up in. I was assigned here initially back in 2000, worked white collar crime, and then after 9/11, me and a bunch of other folks got transitioned over to work counterterrorism matters, and I did that for the majority of my career. Basically, terrorism matters through 2007, became a supervisor and kind of moved up the ranks of the FBI throughout the years. Mainly focused on terrorism issues and national security matters, so counterintelligence, cyber, things of that nature. And then I went back to headquarters back in early 2019. I was the director at the National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force. That's a interagency working group. It's really a focal point for the integration, coordination, sharing of cyber threat information. And so I led a group of around 200 folks, interagency partners, very talented in what they did, and looking at the cyber threat, very eye-opening, disturbing in so many ways. Speaks to the partnerships that we absolutely need with the private sector to get after that threat better than what we're doing today. And that's certainly something we're all focused on moving forward.
And when we talk about cyber, how does that apply here in Michigan? You know, a big part of our focus with this is Detroit and Michigan, localizing it.
Right.
What are there examples that you could highlight of what would be a cyber threat here, and what kinds of companies could be targeted?
Yeah, I think obviously with the big three here and the intellectual property and all the money they dump into research and development to make the products as well as they do, but also there is a litany of defense-related companies in Michigan that do all sorts of projects for the Department of Defense and other agencies within the U.S. government. Every one of those companies, if they make a widget or something that's innovative to a certain degree, and if they have a competitor outside the United States, they should expect that they're going to be targeted. I mean, mostly by the nation-state actors that we're all very familiar with, China or Russia, for example, very active in targeting intellectual property in the United States, and they've been highly successful in stealing a lot of the hard-earned work and development that the people in the United States have put forward. And I think the thing to recognize, as that probably most folks don't, is that I think with the bigger companies, they do a really good job in their cybersecurity for the most part. What we've found is no big company does they don't do all the work internally. They tend to subcontract out bits and pieces of that work. And when you do that to the subcontractors in the lower tier subprimes, as an example, using DoD speak, they sometimes they don't have the capability to protect themselves against a dedicated nation-state actor, so they're vulnerable, and hence the product, the information is vulnerable, and that's a huge problem we have.
What could cyber hackers be looking to steal here in Michigan?
Everything. I mean, everything from auto-related information to DoD-related information to, anything that's. Think of a technology that's disruptive in nature. Think about autonomous vehicle technology and all the work that we're doing in that area throughout Michigan, really leading the world in the development of that technology. AI is an example. Quantum computing. I mean, there's so many different areas that, Michigan is a leader in so many ways, and you just got to recognize that those technologies are of great interest to our adversaries as well, and they are not, sitting idly by. If they can hack into a company system and steal information, they'll certainly do it. Everyone needs to know. Everyone needs to be aware of that.
Are our enemies looking to just make money on this technology, or could it be something even more nefarious, looking to harm American citizens?
Yeah, I think.
Like an attack or something.
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, I mean, certainly when you have critical technologies that are stolen, it's concerning on a lot of different fronts, right? I think it's hard to answer that question because there's a range of cyber actors out there. There's nation-state cyber actors that are focused on specific collection requirements, things that are specifically been tasked to go after and obtain. But there's also criminal cyber actors out there, and we're all aware of the kind of things that they do. And so, you have to be really cognizant of both, frankly. You think of all the ransomware attacks that we've had, everywhere from local hospitals to schools, et cetera, and the importance of, backups and keeping your systems hardened, and most importantly, keeping your systems updated and all your servers updated.
So how are you able to partner with our local companies to prevent and combat these cyber attacks?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is just the education with these companies to let them know what they're up against. And the FBI, certainly working with our partners in DHS, have a robust outreach program where we do that really on a daily basis. Typically, we like to meet, we'll meet like quarterly with our folks. Certainly COVID has been a bit of a challenge, but we are in contact with these individuals, weekly, really throughout the state, and coordinating with our DHS partners.
Those would be companies, be it automotive or defense companies, stuff like that. Those relationships are ongoing.
Ongoing, every day.
Wow.
That's right. Yeah.
Cyber. Maybe we can begin talking about national security.
Yeah, sure.
Is it, from the standpoint of what we've been seeing, are you able to say, what do you consider the greatest threat to the state of Michigan today?
It's a good question, Simon. That's it's hard to answer. There's a lot of threats, right? What's the greatest threat? The FBI certainly has priorities on what we work, and first and foremost is terrorism for us, and mostly because we are the lead agency for that, and really one of the, we work that there very closely with all our partners, but the FBI has lead on that for the United States government, so it's something we take very seriously, both international terrorism and domestic terrorism.
Would you say there's been a rise in domestic terrorism?
Yeah, I think...
or certainly we see it more high profile.
Yeah, obviously the events at the Capitol on January 6th, they're very concerning for all of us, right? We've had similar events at the Michigan Capitol, not as serious, obviously, but, certainly concerning with, armed individuals inside the Capitol, et cetera. So, and there's a degree of rhetoric out there right now that's concerning. And I think what we're seeing is, similar to the group that we, the Wolverine Watchman group that has been, dismantled and disrupted. There's a lot of rhetoric out there that's inspiring people, maybe to go down this road towards domestic violent extremism. And it's certainly something we're keeping very close tabs on and working very closely with our state, federal, and local partners on.
Would it be a mistake for anyone to think this was the only group that thought like that or even wanted to cause harm?
Yeah, I can't go into specifics like that, but certainly, the FBI in Michigan has numerous ongoing investigations into various individuals. I'll just leave it at that. In relation to the Capitol, there's been 2 people arrested so far on federal warrants that were issued, federal complaints, and we should expect many more. I'll just leave it at that.
You're referring to the U.S. Capitol?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
What would be your biggest message to the people of Detroit about staying safe and watching for one another? Yeah,
really to the people of Michigan. The FBI and really the law enforcement community relies so heavily on the public for support. 50% of the domestic terrorism cases that we open up in the FBI come as a direct result of leads from the public. So for us, it's instrumental to the work we do every day. Again, there's a lot of rhetoric out there. There's a lot of people are upset. So what I would ask is if you're concerned about somebody, I would ask you to pick up the phone and call the FBI. You can always reach us at 1-800-CALL-FBI. We'll take tips every day. We'll run those down, and really we need that. The FBI's mission is twofold. One is to protect the American people, and second, obviously uphold the Constitution of the United States. So we do that in large part through the help and assistance of the public, and we continue to need that help.
How big of a role does social media continue to play in tracking and monitoring these kinds of threats?
Yeah, it's huge. A lot of the organization and things of that nature that go into these groups, the way these groups communicate is mostly through social media these days. So obviously it's a huge issue.
Yes.
Obviously there's challenges with encryption that are out there that we're constantly working to address with both the tech companies and with Congress. And really it just speaks to the help that we need from the public. If you have a group that's working with encryption, and someone's part of that and sees something, we would ask that they come forward and say something.
Are groups like this, domestic terrorism groups or something like that, are they trying to maybe go and find other ways of communicating so that if they think that, well, the FBI is very much aware of social media, are they finding other channels? Are they looking for other channels to communicate?
Yeah, I think we have seen different groups and different groups of individuals that have attempted to communicate securely. That's certainly a challenge for the law enforcement community and the FBI, frankly. But that's about as much detail as I go into it on that one.
And on the domestic side, I know, without talking about security at the Capitol, but do our government institutions continue to remain targets? I mean, not just Capitol, but City Hall, courthouses, stuff like things that we were hearing about before. Post-inauguration, have the threats, with the inauguration over now, do those threats still remain?
Yeah, I think what I would say to that is the FBI is extremely vigilant on threats, really all threats, but especially recently with what we saw at the Capitol. We've been hyper vigilant. We stood up a command post. We ran almost continuous operations, working extremely closely with the Michigan State Police, the various local law enforcement partners that we have, through the Joint Terrorism Task Force, the past tips and information that we developed in real time. So everyone had the picture that the FBI had in terms of what the threat picture was out there. So certainly we're monitoring different groups and individuals that have made statements. The challenge is to figure out, is it aspirational or are they just talking, right? So something we continuously work through on a daily basis.
Right. What would be an obvious indication that somebody's not just talking? The type of people that we're hearing about a lot and we're doing stories on are people who say it's my right to own a gun. It's my right to do this stuff. So just because someone goes and buys a gun,
right,
that in itself is not a criminal, but
yes,
but you're putting things together, right?
Of course. When people start to take steps towards criminal activity that's in furtherance of violence or aggression to promote some type of ideology, those are things that start to get us concerned. So tangible steps towards criminal violations, violence, etc., in support of some type of ideology that they're looking to, promote or push forward.
How difficult is it to prevent something from happening as opposed to investigating thereafter?
Yeah, obviously it's very, very difficult. I've been working terrorism issues for most of my career, and really what you're trying to do is, you never want to investigate a terrorism incident post blast. You want to get there and disrupt it before it happens, and in large part that's trying to figure out what a person's intent is, and really in many cases trying to figure out what that intent is, and then working very closely to develop an investigative strategy with the prosecutor's office, AUSAs, and sometimes with the state AG's office to be able to put in place mechanisms and evidence that proves to a jury that the individual was intent, had taken tangible steps, and was getting ready to carry out an act of violence. And then we move forward with the disruption strategy. And really what you saw with the Wolverine Watchman case, very similar to what we did there.
Got it. We talk about crime in Detroit. Where do you begin? You work so closely with DPD to bring down homicides, to bring down non-fatal shootings.
Yeah.
In terms of lowering crime in Detroit, where do you begin?
Yeah, it all begins with partnerships. Like we are infinitely stronger together than we are working separately, and we all recognize that. I've talked to my counterparts at DEA, ATF, HSI. I've talked with Chief Craig numerous times, with the various sheriffs and chiefs in the area. We have various interagency task forces that people are a part of with the FBI, and that the FBI is a part of with them. And our diversity in capabilities and reach and scope makes us stronger when we combine those resources. So that is first and foremost. I think, to your point, there has been an increase in violent crime in Detroit. There's also been a decrease in other types of crimes, such as carjacking, sexual assaults, things of that nature, burglaries. Those have gone down in the last year. But I think really what we've seen too across the country, and I have no direct correlation. I would suspect it has something to do with COVID and people being, confined, et cetera. But really across the country, in numerous cities, there's been a spike in violence, and specifically in non-fatal shootings and things of that nature. So definitely a concern. definitely something that we're all focused on.
Is it is it a certain group of, I know when you were on the street and when you're supervising, is it gangs? Is it like who are these people that are pulling the trigger and that are?
It's a combination. It really is. I mean, there's certainly gang activity going on for sure. There has been violent criminal activity for sure that still exists out there, still very strong. But the domestic incidents is also that's also a driver of what's happening today for sure.
And so when you do partner, how does that, how are you able to leverage those partnerships? Like how does it come together? I mean, from what you can tell us, is it like you have agents on the street working, they're riding with the DPD or anything like that through the task force? I mean,
I think at the end of the day, it all begins with intelligence and how well we share that intelligence, and really how well we coordinate our activities. So we're not duplicating efforts. We're dividing and conquering, so to speak. So we're working in a more coherent, synchronized fashion that's having the greatest impact that we can for the community, positive impact that we can.
We know there are criminals who want to profit from COVID.
Yeah.
What have you seen so far?
Oh, there's been a litany of different schemes. Everything from selling, fraudulent PPE to, payroll protection plan that's out there, and people trying to defraud that. That's pretty significant that we're taking a hard look at right now with the U.S. Attorney's Office. So yeah, certainly something that we're working to address. Whenever you have an influx of money, especially from the federal government, there's going to be fraud, and we're aware of that. And we're kind of all in and trying to address that, as best we can.
This might be a little bit of a silly question to pose to you, but I'm going to ask anyway. What is consumer like? What do you want consumers to think about when they're purchasing PPE to make sure it's legit?
You just want to buy from a trusted source, right? Like I think when COVID first started last March, there was this gigantic rush for PPE, and certainly there was a shortage because manufacturing was not ready for that level of demand that was out there. I think that the supply and demand piece it's not perfect, but it's much better than what it used to be. So, the normal person out there has so many more options to make sure they're buying from a legitimate website. They can check the nature of kind of where it's made and check reviews, and they don't have to go to these nondescript websites to try to get PPE to protect themselves. It's out there for them now, so they shouldn't just be smart about how you're shopping. That's all.
With the new COVID-19 variant, is there an opportunity there for criminals to try and cash in again?
Oh, of course, there always is. So I mean, whenever there's fear, or there's something that's going to cause a degree of distress out in the community, there'll be criminals looking to leverage that to take advantage of it with people. So again, I think we're in much better shape than what we were, say, a year ago or 9 months ago. I think let's leave it at that.
Is there anything else that you'd like folks to know about kind of how you see these next couple of years playing out and where you really want to shine a light?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, this is home for me. I feel extremely privileged and lucky to be back here. I have a commitment as the special agent in charge to work very closely with my federal, state, and local partners, and I'm going to do that. And a real commitment to work with the private sector too, and with our local community leaders. That's all so important to what we do as part of the FBI. It's important for the people of Michigan to trust the FBI, right? So it's on me, it's on my counterparts, it's on all of us to work very closely and work to uphold that mission statement that I told you about earlier with the FBI. Oh, outreach is critically important to the FBI. I mean, frankly, the community has to trust the FBI and what we're doing. If the people don't trust the FBI and don't want to work with us, don't want to cooperate with us, I mean, we are here. The purpose of the FBI is to protect the American people. That's the first statement in our mission statement, and uphold the Constitution. I mean, it's the reason we exist. So if we don't have that partnership with the local community, we failed, basically, as an organization. There has to be trust.
Aside from law enforcement, what do you enjoy about
Yeah.
this state and this area?
Listen, I've lived here pretty much on and off, with the exception of a few, some time down in D.C. and a few trips overseas. I've lived in Michigan basically for the last 20 years. This is a place that I know and care about deeply. I believe, Detroit and really Michigan at large is a place where people just, work hard. And, that's what I'm going to bring to this job. I've talked to all my various squads and the folks that I'm working with. We have a commitment to work hard and serve the people of Michigan, and we're going to do that.